Welcome everyone to the Python sessions, Python programming for data science. In last session, we had discussed data types, then we discussed data structures, then we discussed programming structures, we discussed various kinds of conditional statements, if else, and looping statements, for loop, do while, and so forth. In today's session, we'll just start off with functions, how to create user-defined function. So far, we have been using certain inbuilt functions, but now we'll see how can we create certain user-defined functions. Once we have completed user-defined functions, we'll see two important packages, NumPy and Pandas. Okay. The broad syntax to create a function is you use the keyword def, def. Def stands for define. Then you have to give a name to your function. So you give any name. Typically, the way you should give a name is something which is sensible and self-explanatory. So that kind of name you should be thinking of. Then you open a bracket and you can put n number of parameters, or if you don't want any parameter, you can leave it empty and close the bracket. Colon. The moment you put a colon, it means now the function body statement will begin, where you will write your logic, how to go about doing the calculations. The first line, if you see, where there are three double quotes, is basically docstring, documentation about what is this function created, what is the purpose of this function. Then statements, whatever is the business logic, you can write. Finally, at the end, you should have a return statement. Return is what is the calculated value the function is expected to return. So this is how you define a function in Python. Let's start with a very simple function. Here, I'm saying greet. So greet is a name of the function. Name is my parameter. I am assigning a default value bond to this parameter name. Here, three double quotes, which is a docstring documentation. This is a simple docstring text about the function greet. And what this function is going to do? Print hello, name, and welcome to the world of Python. Note, in this function, I have not given any return statement. This is, as of now, there is no return. So let's see what will happen. I say control enter. The code gets executed and I invoke the function. Here there is one parameter name, but I am not passing any value. In case I don't pass any value, the default value which is already assigned will be taken. So when I invoke the function, the print statement gets executed. Print hello bond, welcome to the world of Python. In case I pass a parameter, greet Rajesh Jakhotia. Hello Rajesh, welcome to the world of Python. So this is how, let me remove the surname like this. So this is how a function gets executed. What this function is returning, okay, if I don't put any bracket, in that case it will tell greet is a function. And what is the definition of the function? Greet bracket open name equal to bond. This is how the greet function is created. In case I write greet dot, there is two underscores here. Note, I put one backspace, another backspace, and I put underscore underscore. This is an inbuilt attribute. This is called an attribute. This is an inbuilt attribute, and this attribute will capture the value will have this information which we gave as part of our documentation string. Documentation string is used for documentation purpose. Control enter. This is the sample doc string text about the function greet. And in this part of the code, what I'm doing is I am calling the greet function and rj, and here I'm capturing whatever is the return value in ret value, return value, and then I'm print the ret value. Okay, or I'll make it more explicitly clear, return value of the function. Okay, so here you can see return value of the function, it's none. Reason is when I declared the function, I did not write any return statement. I have only a print. So in case you do not explicitly write return, in that case it will return none. So this is a quick brief on creating a function. So quickly type these syntaxes for practice purpose. Okay, so in the previous example, we did not have a return statement. That's why when we called the function, the value got returned as none. Return statement, the way it works is the moment a return statement is encountered in a function, the function will immediately exit with that as a return value. Okay, so let's just try to do that. And before that, let's have some statements. For example, in this function, there's a define a absolute value where I'll take a input and it will return the absolute value. Now I made a statement that moment a return will be encountered, the function routine will break at that point. What do I mean by that? DEF return return breakout. Okay, input, I'm not defining any value for that, colon. This example is to show exit of a function when return keyword is encountered. So here what I'm doing is output is equal to input plus 10. I'm just making some, and here I'm saying return output, and then I'm saying the moment I say return output, you see automatically the cursor has indented like this. Okay, so if I write some condition, or I'll make it a proper function now. If I'll make it a function LTV, loan to value, loan amount, and the second parameter is property value. If loan amount equal to is less than 0, return -1. I'm just giving a error code -1. Okay, for else return else if loan amount greater than 1 crore, return mm, out of range. Okay, return, sorry, because there has to be return, otherwise I'll just calculate the loan to value. I'm just creating a dummy function. Loan amount can be definitely loan amount. So what I'm trying to say now here, the moment this return or this return will get encountered, you will not have this calculation happening. Okay, so what the statement, the return statement is used to exit a function and go back to the place from where it was called. So whenever a return is encountered, if this return is encountered, this part of the statement will not get executed. If this return is encountered, this will not get executed. And here I should not have else if. Else if has to be elif, because in Python we have elif, not else if. Okay, so let me just compile this function. Okay, and this is called the business logic. Whatever is your business logic, you typically have to write it here. Okay, that's where the business logic, and that's where this is the meaning statements. The entire business logic is statements. So we call the function, define the function now, LTV. So I pass -1000 comma 10,000. Control enter, -1. Okay, I pass loan amount is 8,000 and 8 lakh. This is not 10 lakh. Property value L, loan to value, sorry, loan to value. This is how it has to be defined, because loan amount, loan to value is loan amount divided by property value. Control enter. Oh, I have not recompiled the function. Okay, now run 0.8. And in case I pass the loan amount something, this is 8 lakh, 80 lakh, 8 crore, out of range. I passed extremely high value. In that case, out of range. Okay, so I'm selling a personal loan, and I'm selling a home loan, but I have a cap that up to this much value only we will do. Any amount which is above that, we should not be giving those kind of loans, assume. In that case, it should say out of range something. So if you can see that the moment a return is executed, the rest part of the logic will not get executed. The function will break out. So probably you can just try this as a example. The same thing, we have something here where I am using if else, but probably we can use this to understand if else in a function. what I can do is I can make this logic more sensible. If property value greater than loan amount greater than property value, let's have this condition, out of range. Now this I can reduce. This is 80 lakh and this is 10 lakh, again out of range, because you don't provide loan amount more than property value. So this is another function where we are just creating absolute value. If x is greater than equal to 0, return x, else return that. So this is very simple. Now let's understand a very important concept. And the concept is, what is the scope of a variable? A variable defined inside a function, the scope of that variable will be restricted within the function, which means that that variable you cannot use outside the function. For example, I am creating a function myfunc, and I'm not assigning any parameter. I'm not taking any input parameter. I just call the function myfunc, and in myfunc x will get created as a variable and the value 10 will get assigned to this variable x. When I call this print function here, it will give me an error because x is not defined. So far nowhere I have created a variable x. So it will give me an error. Control enter. The value inside function 10 and name x not defined. Now let's understand the other element. X is equal to 20, and this time I make this as y is equal to x times 10 value of y inside function is equal to y. Okay, so here x we have now created outside. We are creating a function, and in this function I'm not passing any parameter. However, the variable x, it will take the value 20, assign it in the calculation 20 into 10, 200, and y will become 200. And this time value outside function x, we will get the output. So the point is, if you declare a variable which is outside a function, the scope of that variable we call as global. So this variable will have a global scope, which means it can be accessible inside other functions also. If we declare a variable inside a function, the scope of that variable is local. That variable cannot be referred outside the function. So this is the meaning of scope and lifetime of variables. It is a standard thing across all programming languages. We now move on to another important function in Python, which is called Lambda functions. These are anonymous functions. What do you mean by anonymous? So here, if you take this example, when I create a function, I use def for define and I give a name to the function myfunc. Similarly, when I created this function, I gave a name absolute value, and here the function was given a name LTV. And as we know, anonymous, which means we don't know the name. So Python provides you something called as anonymous functions, and those are called as Lambda functions. The beauty of Lambda functions are they get created at runtime, and the moment the utility is over, they are not available, they get deleted automatically. So basically, how do you call it? You have the keyword lambda, and to lambda you have certain arguments, the input parameters, and then you have the expressions. Basically, whatever logic you want to run, that you pass to the that whatever logic that you run is executed, and you can have only one expression, and whatever is the output of that expression becomes the return type also. So this expression, there can be only one expression, there can be only one statement. You can have a conditional if else if, but the entire block if else if block is actually one statement, and whatever is the return type of that logic, that automatically becomes your return of the lambda function. So
before you proceed, if you can just
okay, here there's a lambda function, and we are assigning it to 2. The moment when I assign it to double, it seems that okay, it's a function which is got created. So not a great example, but we'll see lambda usage of lambda basically in Python with two other functions, which is map and filter. This is how lambda function is actually extensively used. So here what we are creating is my list. I'm having certain values of this list, and here is a filter. Filter is actually a function to which I am passing another function. So basically what I'm saying is I'm creating an anonymous function. By default, this anonymous function, they have given a name lambda. So I say lambda x colon. Now x is your input, colon. After colon, whatever logic you want to apply is what gets applied. Okay. Now what x stands for? So when I call this filter, I am saying this is what function should get applied, but this function should get applied on a my list. So this my list actually becomes your x. So this is equivalent to saying my list percentage 2, but we will use x. Why? Because my list is now referred by x. Okay. So filter in conjunction with lambda is used when from a given data you want to filter and select certain observations. Okay. This exercise you typically will not be able to do with if else, because you cannot write a statement like this: new list is equal to if my list something. You cannot you cannot write a logic something like this: if my underscore list percentage 2 equal to 0 colon, then return a value. L, don't return a value. You may not be able to write this kind of logic in Python. So the way you have to write is you have to use something called filter, and in filter I pass a lambda function, an anonymous logic, and I'm giving the parameter my list on which this logic has to be executed. Whatever is the output of the filter is given as an input to the function list, and it is assigned to the variable new underscore list. So I get a new list which is a subset of the original my list. Control enter. So this is the output. So one of the application of a Lambda function is when you want to filter data from a given data set. Now in this case we have not yet creating a data frame. We are still at a list level. As I mentioned, we will be using NumPy and pandas in the upcoming session. Once we get into NumPy and pandas, once again we will see how we can use Lambda to process pandas data frame. So for now, take this simple example where we are using a filter on a list. Okay. In contrast to filter, there is another function is map. Now the difference between filter and map is filter is a function where you apply certain condition and whichever records meet the condition, those records are returned back. The map function is used when you have to apply certain logic such that whatever is the output of that logic, all those evaluated values have to be returned. So here I want to simply create a multiplication of whatever is the input value by 2. So 1 multiplied 2, 5 multiplied 2. Okay. So I am using a map function. To this map function here, the logic is returned and then I write my list. Okay. So now this same thing could have been done multiple to, sorry, def multiple by 2. Okay. And here we take x. Okay. And I write it return x star 2. Okay. So I now write it like this. Okay, there's some error. Oh, colon. So here what you note that I wrote a function. Explicitly I've written a function, given it name. Now when I explicitly write a function and give it a name, this function will remain in memory. The moment I run def, an object multiple by 2 is created and that function will remain in memory. Whereas if I write the logic something which is given like this with a lambda, no function is created. A runtime function is created, and that runtime function object does not remain in memory moment this part of the syntax is executed. Okay, because this creates an anonymous function. So that's what the difference is, what I was trying to explain when I said lambda creates an anonymous function. So you can try this syntax and I'll write the logic below also, where we have this multiply 2. Okay, and we have to say def multiply 2, and here we say x, whatever is the parameter, and we say return 2 times x. In this case the logic will become something like this. I hope with this 2 examples you will be able to better understand the lambda function. With this we have completed a broad overview on Python functions. Great. Now in our next session we will move on to NumPy and pandas packages.